Hi, my name is Regina Chicazola. I'm actually speaking as an individual resident today, and I want to make that very clear. I've actually lived on Stanshaw Creek, and I've lived in the area surrounding it for many, many years. So I'm not speaking as Save California Salmon at this point. And I just wanted to point out a couple things is this is a very small watershed with very few water users. However, it is really critically important to coho salmon, and they do not have much refugia or habitat at all in the Mid-Klamath River because of the steep landscape. So I just wanted to point that out. This is not like the Scott Valley, where there's really good habitat all over the place or lots of water users. I also wanted to say, that I really like the people from Marble Mountain Ranch. They are reasonable people. I can't say if they've always been that way, but recently I found them to be good community members and people. And I just think, it's important to say that both them and Conrad Fisher are nice, reasonable people who have been my neighbors, and I really respect them all. And I think if there is a place where people can work these things out, it could be this creek. Um, on that, I would like to also say that the ditch I find to be extremely unreasonable and not the proper tool for this landscape. I do think a diversion control device on this ditch is probably not going to work, but what could work is most of us who live in this area have a pipe. And they do have a good water supply. And so it's very feasible for them to have either a buried poly pipe or even metal piping. They might even be able to get financial help from a Fish and Wildlife Agency, being that there's so much water savings in that situation. This is an area that is so steep and full of landslides, full of fires, and having a ditch that is meant to convey that much water is just not very reasonable. Also, I wanted to say, just for some, I think that the water board understands the way the weather is here, but the perfect situation for power generation, and this is a part of the river I've lived on where there is no power available, but the perfect situation for power in this area is actually to have summer solar and winter hydro because, it's a flashy type of water system. And they have put in solar. And so, I think in this situation, we could have it where maybe they have different diversions at different times a year, especially if they did have a pipe with an on and off turn off, like most people in the area do. And like I said, I do feel they're reasonable people and they'd be possibly willing to do this. On the issue of fire, it's true, fire is constant in this area. I've had two fires by my house, fires near my house 2 out of the last 3 years. I think they have more frequent fires, truthfully, in this area. But I do know the best situation for fires is above ground storage. And I'm not talking about dam storage. Like I said, this is a small area, just having just water tanks. But, in the situation for human safety and fire, I'm sure there could be wording in there that could just deal with this. But the way that it was set up, and, probably Doug and Heidi didn't set it up this way, was meant for a different time when there was different water. There wasn't the concerns of coho salmon. And it is very reasonable for the downstream water users, including tribal users of salmon, to want water within this creek and to want the coho to be able to thrive here. And it's not just coho either, it's also critically used refugia for tribal trust species. So, with that, I just wanted to say also, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm really glad we're talking about the engineering of the ditch. I'm glad we're talking about what the authority is in this situation and the fact that bypass flows is actually really reasonable and could happen in here. It's kind of like how I bring up on the Smith River, where there's not many people. We could work this out. We could work it out in a way that benefits the salmon and does not put an unreasonable burden on the Marble Mountain Ranch. And I do think getting rid of the ditch and doing piping is the way to look at this diversion control mechanism and making sure there's in-stream flows. And then also, when summer comes, maybe they can just turn not only have consumptive use. And if they do have a pipe instead of a ditch, then that's totally possible. But when you have a ditch, you have to be diverting water. And so those are, I think I'm probably at my time, I'm guessing, but I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you moving forward with this. I really appreciate that I've seen the Marble Mountain Ranch like put so much into changing their power system. Maybe they had to do it because of this process, but they are, and I see that they are. But I really urge you to act in the way that benefits the fish and the neighbors in this situation, including them. And I don't think having an oversized ditch system in an area that's extremely prone to landslides and taking water out of one creek and putting it into another benefits anyone. So yeah, I support the bypass flows. And I think that with the needs of having hydro in the winter and solar in the summer, which is how you pretty much have to do it in the rivers, I think it's totally possible to go with those bypass flows and to use piping as a diversion control. Yeah, and I think these are solvable issues and much respect for all the parties and people who live on the creek. Thank you.